optimism is incredible. There was 25 years between her first and her second heart attack. And that tends to be optimists that have a long lead time between the first and the second. Whereas if you're a pessimist, it's a lot, closer.
Mad for life, making a difference for a lifetime. Join me, Jill Hicks, as I take us on a quest to learn, to grow, to understand more about ourselves and how we can be the healthiest version and be able to do all the things we want to do for a lifetime. I'll be talking to the scientists, the thinkers, the doctors, the doers, the practitioners, the people that are leading the way in the areas that can improve our health, from our mind health to our body, to our soul, to how we contribute to the world. I'm really excited. This is 20 years in the making for me. Mad for life, making a difference for a lifetime. Well, this is a really fantastic moment for me because I'm here with Dr. Fiona Kerr, who is not your average neuroscientist. I kind of like saying that. Not your average neuroscientist. Is that what you would say to people at a party? And how would that conversation flow after that? You are, and I love this because it's so true in every area that I've worked with you. You are equal parts systems thinker, storyteller, scientific provocateur, and that you map invisible threads that bind humans to each other and also to machines, which gives it the tech overview. But essentially, you are about the role of us humans at the core. We've done a lot together. We've been friends for a very long time. We have spoken on many stages. Together. We have written music together. We've
sung together.
We've sung together. We might be able to do that on this podcast. We have also roots in Scottish heritage together. So I love our little moments when we're able to ping some Scottish lilt to each other.
Absolutely.
And just a long-standing passion for the why and what happens within us. Why do we do the things we do? And the extraordinary, awe-inspiring human and our capabilities. And I think that is what led me to absolutely wanting to have a discussion with you on Mad for Life podcast, but to be straddling two pillars, which is mind health, but also, and this may surprise people, community. So if I could start with, firstly, why? Why did you want to go into neuroscience?
Well, I actually started in genetics, but then anthropology lured me away. So I really loved...
So your love of human was there.
Yeah,
right?
I've always thought, why do people do what they do? Why do we think what we think? Why do we create what we create together? And then I ended up doing a psychology degree as well, because I was in mines, power stations, industrial negotiation, and was really fascinated by what worked and what didn't, I guess, when people were interacting. And also thought, well, you may as well pay me as an org psych. And then worked probably for another 25 years in companies around the world and with governments. Different governments do very different things, on building adaptive, flourishing sort of systems, really. And at 50, I'd finished a big job, and I was talking by then, also guest lecturing, and almost got talked into, well, look, why don't you've got these theories? What I did was figured out or noticed real trends in what we build, like the way that people live, the system that we're in, but also the way that people think, like the leaders of those systems that are adaptive and inclusive and positive and flourishing. And I got really interested in that, it's like building human co-evolving, collaborative, sort of chaotic systems. And the only way that I could look at them and say, so exactly how do they work, is to do a complex dynamic systems engineering PhD. So I did that, but halfway through I thought, this is absolutely beautiful. Like how systems work is just gorgeous, how we create feedback loops and boundaries and rules and structures that support adaptivity and connection. But why do some people get that? Why do they think it? Why did they build it? And you go through all the things, and eventually it was, well, do they have different brains? Yes, they do, because upwards coming technology.
Upbringing,
and it partly is. It partly is. But we could actually see that they form the way that we think. And technology was coming up, AI was coming up around how you can then have a look at that. And one of the things that was really sort of physically obvious when you watched people who were highly collaborative and highly, creative leaders and adaptive leaders, and people that listened and
so this could be in, say, a corporate setting.
It could be, right. That's right, or a politician, or let's hope.
Yeah.
They have really strong socio-emotional parts of their brain that fire. They connect quite differently to people. They use different words. They have different drivers. And so I thought, so it's not just what they build, it's also how they think. So I added cognitive neuroscience, because I'd had a major with my psych in neuropsychology. So it's all systems. Anthropology is human systems, psychology is individual system creation.
So does that keep you up at night?
Yes.
Like, is your brain constantly trying to work out, now, why did that person do that? And what was the behaviour behind this? And what makes us highly effective communicators? And is that something we can learn to do?
Oh, absolutely. Oh. Some are better at it than others naturally, just the same as some are naturally more complex thinkers. But all of us can improve. Most of us are on a bell curve, somewhere. And because our brains are so beautifully plastic, and because we change our brain all our lives, we can shape the brain we want. So there's so much around the neuroscience that was absolutely fascinating. So one of the things was, neurogenesis. We can change our brains all our lives. We can grow our brains all our lives by what we pay attention to. So if you want to be a really good communicator, you can start focusing on that, just like if you want to be a cello player, and you can hone your capacity, and you can build this You can build this gorgeous 3D spider web of neural networks that are sort of, so fat and so chunked up with knowledge and capacity and intuition around that's what makes you really good at it.
So we've got our conscious brain and our subconscious.
Kind of.
So if we want to teach the brain to think as a more effective communicator, or to better ourselves, or to be the superhuman that we all know that we can be, who's influencing who?
Oh, both ways. But the thing that you need to do, it's the same with a lot of sort of non-transactional skills and training. You have to want to get better at it. It's like leadership courses for people that are not good leaders and not really interested in changing the way they think. It's the leader horse to water problem. But if you are interested in getting better, then the biases that cut out the information that's relevant, that you're not noticing or not paying attention to, and that make you pay attention to other things, you can alter them, and you get really good at radar So you become a lot more accurate around picking up information. And this is where we start going into the neurophysiology of direct proximity, because when we are proximal to each other,
like we are now.
Yes, we have literally 15,000 chemicals that we're swapping. We have interbrain synchrony happening. And because you and I are close friends, our brains are going nuts, already. We could put us on a picture and we could just see how much information is flowing both ways. And we have, through voice, we have brain-to-brain coupling processes that turn on alpha, theta, gamma, change the way we make decisions and connect and what we hear and how we feel about whether that information's valid or not. The level of respect and trust that you show to someone else completely filters what you hear, how you encode the data. There's just so much.
So what I love about this, and bear in mind that we're here on a podcast that is about making a difference for your lifetime. You're already here because we're interested about our health, of what's happening inside of us, of the things that we can do that value ourselves. But what I'm just completely enthralled and captivated by is your incredible descriptions of what is happening inside our minds. And I hope that we can pause just for that moment for us to think about all the things that are going on in real time and just celebrate that of how extraordinary. And once we can pause in that knowledge, it's from that platform that I want to encourage us to grow and to expand. And even if we're not in a leadership position, it's how do we become, for lack of better terms, the best version of ourselves.
Yeah, the best we can be.
And it's that growth consciously that I'd love to expand with you of what could I be doing today that could change something for me immediately. And is that almost like going to the gym for your mind? Because is it then an exercise that I have to do daily that will make me be that ultimate thinker?
Yeah. The more you do it, I think the more automatic it becomes, because the more we realise it is important. Like the other side of that question for me is it's not just what could we do, but what's already happening that we just don't even think about, that we're not aware of.
Yeah. But you're aware.
Yes, yes. And
does that change your how you relate in life?
It does. I've always been like someone who loves to connect anyway. I've always been interested in information. I've always been a sharer. My kids probably think, oh, shut up. But, or used to. I've got for a few years during the PhD, one of them especially banned anything to do with neuroscience or systems. No, you're not allowed to say it.
Please just.
But is now a psychologist, would you believe?
Doom, yeah.
I think that, one of the things for me is, it might be the title of the book I'm writing, is we are the bright, shiny things. We are the things that are wonderful. Our brain is more incredible than AI. That could be a complete other show about just how incredibly amazing our neural networks are.
I've been doing a lot in education.
Yep.
My dream is to have HI celebrated, taught, revered alongside AI, but for our young people to say, my HI is as important as my tool, which is my AI, and how human intelligence should be something we're constantly talking about, promoting.
Yeah, and we do, and we have for years. But I think that the decision makers need to understand how critical and valuable that is, how amazing it is, and how that is where you start. Like, once you start to realise how the brain works, how far superior it is to any other neural network that we currently have. And I work in, as you said, I work in technology. I've worked with the biggest companies. around all kinds of neuromorphic programming, you name it. But we still are nowhere near the way that a human brain can work. But we can create changes in our own brain, but we also massively create changes in each other's brains. And that's the beautiful thing about us. We're these electrochemical bags of sensors that are built to connect. And we change our immune systems of each other. We change depression pathways. We change complex problem solving, complex decision making. I spent 3 years with American Defense because I challenged them that they think that, let's see, that a soldier in the field is going to make as good a complex decision, and a moral decision is a subset of a complex decision, with their trusted autonomous robot as they would with a trusted teammate. And I said, my work and other people's research says that that's not true. But they love their trusted autonomous robot. Yeah, I love my car. I'm an engineer. It doesn't make me make a good moral decision, especially under duress. So I ended up there for a whole year looking at brain-computer interfaces, but then talking about minimal manning and looking at the interaction of humans when you make complex decisions. And they were, let's just say, miffed when the results after 3 years were, guess what? We make each other smarter. When we are within proximity of each other, because of the changes through voice and eye gaze and interbrain synchrony, chemisphere interaction, the
chemisphere, I love that.
Yes, it's a beautiful. Yes. It's those chemicals. What you're doing is creating fuel for more of the brain to get involved in a moral or a complex decision, because our brain isn't as divided as we used to think. This bit only does that, side. And also these bits act independently. Your vision from your this, from your that. Our brain is massively collaborative, and anytime we're doing anything, we've got a bunch of the brain that is collaborating together in microseconds to give us whatever it is, an image, a thought, and that needs fuel. And the brain is really lazy. We love habits because it means the brain doesn't really have to work very hard, which is why it gives you a rote answer first, unless you go, no, I don't want that. This is actually difficult. More of you has to get up. It's called intrabrain synchrony instead of interbrain synchrony. And so the more the brain has to collaborate and all the information encoded has to actually be put together, and you get this much more wide view, the better the outcome, the decision, because you've got more information in there that's relevant. It actually changes the criteria that the brain goes and searches for information around.
So can I share with you? I have a example of this personally, in that in the aftermath of the bombing, I will never forget the connection and relationship of the role my brain was playing in trying to assess a situation that it could not comprehend, how my hands were feeling for where my legs should have been, and relaying that information back to say, legs aren't there, legs aren't there. Legs are gone. And the brain and I always describe it as a giant computer trying to assess the information being relayed from the hands and coming back down saying, well, that's not possible. So don't worry. I'm sure it's just a situation where Jill is going to be over dramatic about something. Don't worry. We've got past examples of her being over dramatic. Don't worry. Everyone calm down. Business as usual. And it was fascinating to be both the observer and the participant in that moment.
Yep.
And I've had an incredible respect for my brain and body relationship ever since, because I'm always conscious of, this is a brain moment where I have to ask it, help me how to walk or help me how to do this.
We've actually got, so our brain, just on that point, I always say that our brain starts at the top of our head and it finishes at our feet.
Oh,
because we have got, for most people.
I'm done. I'm out.
We've got so much information all through our body. And yes, we have a central nervous system, major brain. We also have the enteric brain. We have the second brain, which is the gut brain.
Yes.
Millions and millions of neurons.
And gut instinct I like as well as a term.
Well, so gut instinct gets to intuition, and we might get to that because it's fascinating. We should get to that.
Yeah.
But what we end up with is we've got, if all that happened, if every single time anything happened in the body, autonomic, anything, it had to go through this, we'd stop. It would just be this central area where it would just get too cluttered. So we've got all these other little backups all through our body, all these part systems that help, that make all kinds of, if we want to use the word decisions, but create all kinds of flow
and
all over the place.
And instinctively know when it's their time to perform?
So it depends on which nervous system they might be part of, or which flow system they might be part of. So we've got this fantastic distributed system. We are a system, and this is a neural system, but we have these neural networks through our body, and we have all of the other networks. And depending on which one is being used, there's lots and lots of information that comes automatically.
Because I've started I've been doing this for a while now, a technique. So I endure quite a lot of physical pain.
Yes.
And so I've started to look at, without medication, how can I use my brain to make different associations? So what I've been doing that's worked effectively enough is to make the association that pain means that I can feel. And if I can feel, then that means I'm alive. And of course, being alive is the positive outcome. So tracing that back as the connection means that alive, pain, it's now a positive association. And that seems to have worked to a degree. So I'm fascinated in how we can learn to use this system to our betterment.
Yep, and you're doing it there, and you're doing it all the time. And we can do it for ourselves, and we also do it to each other. So when I'm talking to you and we interact, because again, we have all those different ways of interacting, but especially something like an affiliative warm voice, a kind eye gaze, and perhaps a pat on the hand. But all of those sorts of things increase oxytocin, they boost your immune system, they turn down cortisol creation, and your HPA axis, so the nervous systems get calmed. You're able to get not only emotional equilibration, but also to drop your pain levels or to be able to manage them more easily.
So do you think it's wild for me to say that I believe that I'm alive today because of the amount of people that held my hand?
Totally. Yeah.
And I remember one encounter with one of the rescuers, and he was only a young guy, and he said to me, I was trying to give you some of my life into your hand. And I said to him, I felt that.
Yep.
I felt that.
And you would have felt it through your brain as well.
But I didn't know how to explain it because I didn't know you yet.
Yep.
If only I'd known you, I would have said, hold that thought. I'm just going to call my friend Fiona. It was extraordinary. And I believe that it saved me continuously to this day.
Yes. Well, I remember us having a conversation about this one of the first times many, many years ago when we were both on a speaking circuit, and we both ended up in tears around, I think I was doing So I was doing a paper at that time on the neurophysiological impact of touch and eye gaze on healing and the therapeutic relationship, because it was to say at that time, there was all this stuff coming up with, the robot nurse type of thing. What do we need?
Gosh.
What do we need to look after us? There's something called an end-of-life robot, which is almost like a ironing board with a face that can pat your arm and go there, and that's their choices. We can go there. But
has anyone actually implemented that?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh.
Yes. In fact, I've got good friends who are kind of in the biomed engineering area who kind of went, oh, well, it's better than nothing. No, it's not. It's absolutely not.
I'm devastated.
Yes, totally. And to think that we can consider that that's a viable option when, connection, we're born connected to the person that births us. We die with somebody. It's what makes us human in a connected society, in a caring society. So, yeah.
And what's happening to us when we're doing that handhold? What's happening inside of us?
So the lovely
Why
thing,
is it important?
Because just touch. So we've got things called C fibres in our skin.
C fibres.
C fibres. So we've got A fibres, which are really fast, and so they are myelinated, and you pick up a hot pot, and the A fibre is the thing that says drop it.
Right.
But that's not pain. The C fibre, from now on, what you'll notice if you ever do that is the pain comes a few seconds later.
Yes.
And that's because the C fibre is not myelinated, which means it's very slow, but it's really rich, and it takes all kinds of emotional and physical stimuli, and it draws it up, puts it into your brain, and lets you feel what's actually happening. And so touching someone's skin is attenuating C fibres. It's setting them off and giving them the information about you when you touch someone. So the funny thing about that is it depends on context as well. So, if your partner that you're getting on well with is stroking your hand, that'll feel nice. If you've just had an argument and they try it, it might be a bit irritating. But if someone comes up on the street that you don't even know and does that, it's just really creepy. It's exactly the same stimuli, but of course your brain.
So the C fibre is sort of responding back to the brain saying, don't know this person, this is a bit odd.
The brain's going, yeah. Yes. And the other thing is with touch, you've also got the chemicals and you've got the interbrain synchrony or lack of it from someone. So you've got all these other rich information sort of vectors coming at you. But touch is massively important because it creates this whole cascade of chemicals, quite different from eye gaze, a dynamic resonance with someone, and voice, that hugely impact your a number of things. So they change the way that your amygdala activities happening. They can alter the way that's firing. They can cut down any overstimulation of all of the different nervous systems, but they turn up your immune system. They turn on oxytocin. They turn down pain receptors. So touch is hugely important, and it's just why very often the best thing to do is just to hug someone. Like as mums, look at the amount of times that you just hold your child and you don't say anything, or your partner, because often words get in the way. Mm. And what we start doing after a certain amount of time is we let down oxytocin, we do a bunch of things, and it just calms a whole load of things.
Now, when we can't be in a proximity to be able to touch, I love something you did when we were in that enforced period of separation during COVID, and you created an eye hug, and we were there on screens together, and we were eye hugging each other, and it was so beautiful because I could feel it. So again, it's the power of intention. Mm-hmm. Of how that can leap through the wires, and it's how we can have an effect on each other with that power of intention that no matter what is happening, we can create a whole different environment.
Yes.
And it's how do we get to that? How do we do that? If we don't have a community, so we have an idea of community, don't we? Of, I'm going off to play sport, or I'm going to my painting club or my book club or whatever it is. This idea of sub communities, but it's if we don't have that, it's how do we create that sense? And maybe community is purely connection with each other.
Absolutely, it is. And there's so many things around how you build a community so that people can connect. I did some work with Hugh McKay when he did Australia Reimagined, or Reimagining Australia, and it's a beautiful book, and it's about knowing your neighbour, and that kind of thing. So on that small scale, which is really important. So
I think it is important, because I think that's
critical.
What's achievable.
Yes,
isn't it? Because there's a lot of people that are busy working and for all intents and purposes quite isolated in life, and which is why our phones and our social platforms have such a huge part of the day.
Yes, which don't actually help with the isolation. So there's a difference between loneliness and isolation. So one of the really interesting things that we know more and more is that you might feel less lonely when you interact all the time over a screen, but you actually feel more isolated.
Wow.
They are different.
Right.
And they have differences on your mental health. They have differences on your feeling of belonging. They have differences on how much you think you actually have someone that really cares enough if you get into trouble to come and help. Those kind of things, they don't get fed by the same interaction. Social media has to be used a particular way for it to be positive. So doing the work on loneliness is really interesting. If you just follow, influencers and those kind of things and look at people's lives that you could never get hold of, you just feel worse. You feel more lonely and isolated. But if you use it to connect with people face to face, you also have relationships with. Because one of the beautiful things that happens when we look at each other, because we have all that gorgeous stuff going on, we make a little mini-me of each other.
I love that.
And that fires so that the brain doesn't have to work every single time on eye gaze and touch and voice and chemosphere and interbrain synchrony. So you become this beautiful little package that grows and grows the more we know each other. And if you then see someone on a screen, because hundreds of parts of our brain never turn on when we just see a face over a screen, and then other parts never turn off because they're looking for all that other information we just talked about. So when you see each other and you already have that person mapped in your brain, then an awful lot more of the brain turns on.
So I love that term, I see you in me and I see me in you.
Yes.
And it's how we can be, well, to me, it's that is evolution. So my whole pet subject is, how do we evolve? How does the human keep evolving?
Yep.
What does that look like? What does that mean? For me, it means that we see each other as equals. We see each other as human beings first. We see the value in each other. We see the curiosity and difference rather than the fear. And that I would be constantly thirsty for knowledge, so that everything would be, what can you tell me that I don't know? Mm-hmm. And you're different. How fascinating. What can I learn from you that I don't know? And that to me is where I would love to see humanity.
Oh, and that's complex
evolve.
Thinking. You're a complex thinker. And one of the things that, just like you, education. So I've always been interested in creating complex thinkers, because one of the things that came out of the PhD was one of the differences with people who build adaptivity and connection is they're complex thinkers. And what they tend to do is exactly what you just said. They don't just look for information that rewards them for being right in what they're doing, sort of reinforces what they already think. They're always looking for what's called disconfirming information. So what have I missed? Where am I wrong? What can I add to this that would give me another view? And, is this the right question? Is a perfect question from a complex thinker. And
I feel seen. I feel seen.
And if you've got, intelligent sort of politicians or good bosses, they tend to be complex thinkers. And the lovely thing is little children are really good at that. So there's kind of two ends I've been dealing with. One is the leader, making them more complex, but the other one is building systems that allow that complex thinking, because you can grow it, to start to flourish at even preschool, because they're pretty good at it. And
so how do things? So there's a couple of things I want to float past you, and they're things I think about a lot. I find the term resilience quite itchy.
Mm-hmm.
I prefer to think about our ability to be agile around change and flexible, and what does that look like? But okay, I'm going to hit you with it. Resilience, hope, and optimism. And that messes with me as a complex thinker.
Yes. So resilience can also be, yes, we should be able to be agile and flexible. But if you can't be agile and flexible, if you are absolutely stuck in a situation that allows no flexibility or agility, then for me, that's when resilience sits there as this is my base amount. I'm just going to manage to get through this. So resilience to me is more like
is that like a tolerance level?
It's almost the grit of just staying in that place, of surviving through that.
Because I have a mental picture of resilience to me as someone putting a crash helmet on and just going, we're just going to get through.
Yeah,
and whereas agility is saying, you know what, life is full of sudden unwanted change, which I like to call suck moments.
Yes.
And we know that. So if we know that, then we're stepping into life, I think, with the freedom of the knowledge that stuff happens.
Absolutely.
It will change.
Yes.
Nothing will ever stay like we want it to do, but want it to be permanently.
Yeah. And it's only really when it's, you've still got, you've still got parts that bottom out. And that's when you just need to stick there and
put your crash helmet on.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Safety first, Fiona. Safety first.
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah.
But when we get to hope, that's fascinating. So I got really interested, especially while I was doing the sort of neurophysiological impact stuff of direct interaction. I got really interested in the power of hope. And for me, and we've talked about this,
because I feel prickly about hope as well. Yeah.
So the hope that is, I hope that works.
Yeah.
It
feels so disposable.
Yes,
and the never land.
Yeah.
And
it's also a bit escapist and fluffy.
Correct.
And
I like action and a pathway.
Well, that's not for me what I really call hope. Hope is the wonderful thing that can happen. Say if you've been given bad news about your health, or that someone you love is going to die, those kind of things which are difficult to deal with. The person that gives you hope in that way is someone that helps you to deal with the process and deal with getting through it, because what we now know is it makes all kinds of physiological changes in your body. If you've got someone that is someone you trust and someone who is highly connecting to you and cares, you really think cares, and that can be a good doctor, it can be someone who is really relevant in the time, then them talking to you candidly about the situation, about your options, about what your certainly near future looks like, in a way that respects you as an individual who's intelligent enough to listen to this, and then maps out with you your options, then they will, because again, you've got lots of connectivity going on that we don't even realize, they can change your depression pathways. They change what you make decisions around. They can actually, again, make all kinds of changes to the way that your amygdala is phasing, so that you can be calmer in what options you see are possible, instead of just going into that hopeless, helpless mindset, which then pours out cortisol, stops, any form of potential.
Is that strong enough to increase lifespan?
It changes morbidity, mortality. It changes your quality of life because it changes the way you approach it. It gives you internal locus of control. It certainly increases mental wellness because you get back some of that internal locus of control.
So that's linked then to an optimistic.
So we get
posture?
into optimists. So there's differences and similarities, but optimism is incredible. Optimism is one of the most powerful things in humans. And I have to talk about Mum just quickly when we go there. So I lost Mum just before Christmas. She was nearly 96, so she had a very good innings. Mum was a little optimist, off with the fairies, we used to say. It was just always going to be right. And sometimes that was really annoying because she was doing really silly things. But she was so cute that everyone just, And Dad was always good at having the padded crash helmets around. She did,
just in case.
She did silly.
Just in case.
But she was also a very capable nurse, a really good professional. But she was an optimist. So she had her first massive heart attack at 50, and then another one at probably 70, another one at 80. She had a stroke at 80. She had, she was not in the best of physical health, but she was the statistic where there was 25, so she was 75 the second time. There was 25 years between her first and her second heart attack. And that tends to be optimists that have a long lead time between the first and the second. Whereas if you're a pessimist, it's a lot, closer. And part of that is because when you're an optimist, you have more of those lovely kind of oxytocin, immunogen, all those things that help your health and your immune system and your mental sort of well-being. So they have the best possible chemical interactions going on in their body.
This is making me feel very happy right now because I'm a complex thinking optimist.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I always believe that it will be.
Yes. Well, I think you and I
okay.
are what I call pragmatic optimists.
Mm.
They're also the best leaders.
Yes.
But, of course, not to pat ourselves on the back, but that pragmatic optimism is probably it's the best you can be because you're not unrealistic. So if we go back to your point of, I hope it works, that's giving in. You have a pragmatism around wisdom. So to me, wisdom is that whole thing about getting the best information and making the best decisions for the common good and acting.
And I always not so much justify, but think about experiences, good, not so good, throughout life, and say that's okay because it's all leading to a position of wisdom, and that every experience is like a wisdom point. And I love the idea that maybe that is the quest of life, that we arrive at a place of being wise and having lived fully.
Well, the lovely thing about you and people that are complex thinkers and kind carers as well of the world and each other is when you have those situations that say this leads to wisdom, you have heuristics or biases that allow you to be open to that experience. Whereas other people will just get more, bitter. And so it actually stops them being wise, and they go into being resentful or negative. And then the more that cycle happens, the less capable they are of actually readjusting and saying, what can I take from this?
Because I attribute my lack of bitterness to the people that held my hand, to the people that held my body.
Absolutely.
And that willed me to life.
Yep.
And that exchange of, the only way I can describe it is unconditional love shown from a stranger.
Yep.
But there's a level above that, which is we're not strangers.
No.
Because there was an acknowledgement that I am you and you are me. Well, a first here for Mad for Life. We've actually had to stop part 1. And because my guest, Dr. Fiona Kerr, there was so much that we were delving into around the brain and the systems of the brain that inform the body, that I felt it was necessary for us to just pause and to create a whole other episode dedicated to this subject. Look, to be honest, I think we could go on and just have a whole podcast about the brain, particularly speaking to Fiona, who's a dear friend of mine. So please enjoy part 1 and part 2 with Dr. Fiona Kerr. And we're tracing pillar 1, which is mind health, and connecting that to pillar 6, which is community health and the power of connection. I hope this conversation has helped you in your commitment to being mad for life, to making a difference for a lifetime. If you'd like to know more, please join us on our website, mad4.life. Until next time, I'm Jill Hicks. Stay mad.